Hi there, I'm Alina Blasio. I'm with B.A. Worthing Incorporated. We are a residential general contractor and we service the San Diego County area in California. Today, we are going to be talking about construction contracts and what to look for in a contract and how to understand whether or not you're working with a trustworthy general contractor. Working in this industry, I have come across some pretty unbelievable horror stories. A client specifically came to us and they had signed a contract with another general contractor, and that general contractor took a 50% deposit for a very large scale project. The contractor showed up, started doing the work, and after 3 months disappeared and was nowhere to be found. That client was left high and dry in terms of the progress of their projects, and their money was gone. It's really important that you read your contract, guys, because it protects both the general contractor and yourself. If you don't read your contract and you don't understand how your contract works, you're setting yourself up for failure and disappointment and potentially setting yourself up to get taken advantage of. So there are a couple of different types of contracts in the construction industry, specifically in residential. There is a time and materials or cost plus contract, and there is a fixed price contract. Understanding the type of contract that is being presented to you and how that contract works, what is included and what is not included in that contract are very important pieces of the puzzle. Let's start by talking about a time and materials or cost plus contract. Time and materials and cost plus basically means that you are going to pay for any of the subcontractor's costs, the general contractor's time, whether that is a single person or they have a team, and any sort of a vendor cost plus a markup of a designated amount. Now, when you're looking at a time and materials contract or a cost plus contract, you need to verify what that percentage of markup is. Oftentimes, a time and materials contract will not include a contingency fee. The contingency fee is a protection method for the general contractor if they are doing a fixed contract. The contingency is used for any sort of bidding errors, oversight, any sort of issues that come up that are unforeseen on the job. For instance, if someone swings a ladder around and hits a window and the window cracks, well, who's paying for the cost to replace that glass? If it's a fixed price contract and you're paying that contingency fee, it would come from the contingency. If you're in a time and materials contract, you're paying the cost for that glass because the contractor is not holding a contingency for any sort of things that come up throughout the job. Additionally, in a time and materials contract, it's really important to understand and to make sure that the contractor is presenting to you what the costs for their labor are and what the costs for their team's labor is, so that you understand when their finished carpenter shows up to install baseboard, how much that person's time is costing you. And if they're showing up on the job site to do a walkthrough with you weekly, and that walkthrough is an hour, hour and a half, you understand what you're paying for that time for the person to be there. Time and materials is, it's less risky for the general contractor. It's more risky for the client, but some clients aren't interested in paying an additional contingency fee because they're comfortable understanding that you're going to see all of the invoices, you're going to see all of the proposals, and you're going to be making the decisions of who you work with and who is involved in the project as you go. The other type of contract is a fixed price contract. I touched on it a little bit. It is more protection for the client because the contractor is guaranteeing that unless the client changes the scope of work or adds to the scope of work, the bottom line number that is on the contract is what the client will pay. So many clients are more comfortable with that option because there isn't any sort of pie in the sky, never-ending costs that could come up. With the fixed price contract, a couple of items to really hone in on when you're talking with the contractor, reviewing the contract. You want to look for A, the cost for the time for people that are on their team. B, you want to make sure that there is a section that specifically spells out what the cost for a change order will be, and if there are additional markups, what the percentage of markup is on change orders. And you also want to understand a allowances. Most contractors will include an allowance for products if the products have not been selected. So for instance, if you haven't picked all of your tile or you haven't picked your specific flooring material, but you really want to get your project going, you may have an allowance for particular pieces of the puzzle that haven't been clearly defined yet. When you're reviewing the contract for a fixed price approach, you want to verify what items are allowances, and you want to make sure that you understand what amount is included for both the material and the labor, so that when you're going to select a product, you are very clear in your mind. If I choose a product that is more than, say, $10 a square foot, I am going to have a change order for the cost difference between what was in the contract and what I selected. Now, if the change orders are not specifically spelled out in terms of how the percentage of markup works, or if the allowances don't specifically state the material cost that is included, that's an important thing to follow up with the contractor on and ask them to provide more backup. In both types of contracts, it should specifically spell out what the payment schedule is. For a time and materials or cost plus contract, you should expect either a weekly or a bi-weekly billing, that they will send you all of the invoices from subcontractors, vendors, and their time and provide you with an invoice every week or every other week. With a fixed price contract, you should have a milestone payment schedule that is commensurate with the work as it's being completed. An example of that would be demolition completed, rough lumber stock. These things can be tied to either milestones with the project or products or materials being ordered. Rough framing completed, foundation poured, rough combination inspection passed. So look for things that are either progress with the project, time milestones, purchase for materials. These are all things that could be part of that milestone breakdown, but the key to remember is that they shouldn't be having an invoice that doesn't percentage-wise match either that milestone or that particular product that's being ordered. It should really tie into the overall cost of the project. A couple of green and red flags to look for when you're looking at a contract for a potential project. The green flag items. Is the contractor being transparent about the percentage of markup? Is the contractor being transparent about the cost for their employees' time and for their time? Is the contractor providing a scope of work that is clear and detailed? And is the contract providing you with a payment schedule that matches what is required in terms of the Contractor State License Board and in terms of the progress of the project throughout the life of the work? Some red flags: no markup being spelled out, no people and time being spelled out, a very lackluster scope of work. By lackluster, I mean not enough detail, not specifically spelling out what's included in terms of materials or in terms of the level of construction progress. If they don't have anything in their contract about a warranty, because a warranty should be provided, you should expect a warranty from a contractor. If they don't list their contractor's license, that's a really big red flag. So these are some of the key items that I would look for. In addition to those green and red flags, I would recommend that you always, no matter what state you're in, we're in California, so we would look up the contractor's license number on the Contractor State License Board. Each different state has one. You can look the contractor up by their name or their company name. And when you go onto those websites, if the contractor is actually licensed, it will show that they are licensed, bonded, insured, and in addition, you can always ask the contractor to provide you with contact information for their insurance broker or insurance provider to verify that they're carrying the right amounts of coverage. And another key thing that you could look into is whether or not they're listed on the Better Business Bureau. That's a big thing in the construction industry, so checking to see if they're on the Better Business Bureau and if they've had any bad remarks or comments that have been made. So keep in mind these couple of key items and make sure you do a little homework. Don't forget that you signing a contract is you agreeing to what's in that contract. And you're the one who's responsible for getting screwed if you don't read the contract, because if you haven't read through the contract and you haven't verified that all of these different points that I'm telling you are red flags or green flags are in that contract, you're liable for whatever is in it. So do your homework, read the contract, look for these red flags, look for these green flags, and make sure that you're not getting screwed.